Testing 1 2 1 2.
Let me see. It's looking out here. Looks like it's picking it up.
Testing 1 2 1 2. Okay.
1 second. All right, Dave, try it again.
Testing 1 2 1 2. A B C D E F G. Yep.
So I'm just going to mute it.
Okay.
Hi everyone. Thank you. We're going to open our Finance Committee. It's July 11th. It's 6:06. I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We're going to take a roll call. Councilmember Gully, I believe he's on his way. Councilmember Garrett. Present. Councilmember Parator. Here. Councilmember Cummings.
Here.
Councilmember December.
Present.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Here.
Council President Mantello is here. We have 6 present, 1 absent. Public forum will open up. This is for anything that is on the finance agenda only. Please come up to the podium, name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. And as I said, this is a public forum for the Finance Committee agenda items only. Thank you.
Hi. Oh, is it not on? I think I got it. I got it. Jason Harlow.
Sorry, Jason.
Hi. Jason Harlow, 61 Pinewoods on the east side. I'm bringing my issues to the Finance Committee to allow myself more time in the meeting, save myself a seat. I have some questions about Ordinance 58, which is regarding the pool stuff, the changes. I think it's a good idea to clarify these entrance fees and stuff. But I'm not sure how a kid who's 13 to 16 without a driver's license can prove residency. I'm not even sure if we should call them adults. If we're going to modify the document, we probably shouldn't call them adults. And it's not clearly stated that kids under 12 or people who cannot identify themselves with a driver's license or whatever should or should not be accompanied by an adult. And I wondered if there was a study about the effectiveness for the numbers that people want to change the rates to, like $2 for residents and $5 for non-residents. I don't know how many people come to the pools or how often and like how much money they expect that they're generating. I assume those numbers came from somewhere, but I was curious. I thought if I were to amend it, I would change it a bit and say that people 13 to 18, we charge them $1. And then residents who are 18 and above, we charge $2. And then non-residents who are 18 and older, we charge $5. On to Ordinance 59. This was a fairly distressing thing to read about, that the city's got to just not go to court and pay these folks or this person $120,000 because they were drunk and went where they weren't supposed to go and hurt themselves. And rather than get into a legal battle, which could be more costly, that because of our supposed negligence, we have to pay out this much money. I wondered if there were any changes made since this event happened. Do we have better fences or signage or a bigger lock? Do we have guards? Like, are there means in place to prevent this kind of thing from happening at that location or other locations to prevent this loss of money? I know people aren't here yet for the Sanctuary City, but it seems like if you were against Sanctuary City that you would be super upset about this, that somebody went where they weren't supposed to go. They were there illegally, and then we're paying them a bunch of money because they're suing us. So that seems kind of funny to me. Ordinance number 60 is about changing the word protection to conservation, which seems fine, but then in resolution 45, the title and some wordage in it still says protection. So I think you might want to amend it to say conservation. Resolution 48, I don't think that we ought to include a hot button topic like Sanctuary City in the language of this thing. I don't know if the thing that you're proposing is good or bad. I don't really have an opinion, but I don't think that it needs to include something like sanctuary city. So I would.
I apologize. Resolution 48 is withdrawn.
Oh, okay. It's just totally withdrawn. Right on then. That's all for me. I'll see you at 7.
Sorry, Jason. Thank you. Sorry, I cut you. Yep.
Hi, Marie Gavazzi, 1922 Fifth Avenue. I'm here speaking as the president of the Troy Public Library. I appreciate your consideration of the resolution number 46, supporting our application for consolidated funding to fund a historic structure report. This will help guide us in the proper care of the building and its preservation, as well as trying to make it more functional as a modern day library. So this is very important to us. I know a lot of people feel that libraries aren't important anymore, that they've become irrelevant with the internet. Well, 30% of the population depends on the library for internet services. You can't apply for a job nowadays without having internet access and applying electronically. Well, TJ, you can't answer this question, but do you know what the only public library is in downtown? It's the Troy Public Library.
Why?
Because you should know the answer. I already told you. The night I met your mother. So when the Hidden Garden Tour was held, it attracted about 700 people. And when they asked where the restroom was they could use, they were referred to the public library. In addition, we process about $10,000 a month in navigator fees for CDTA. Can you imagine that many people coming in for that purpose to the library? And even though you may feel you don't need the library, you might be surprised if you checked into what was offered. I myself could afford to buy books, but I couldn't afford to read as many and listen to as many as I get from the library. Genealogical services, we get people coming in from out of town, people coming to do research on Troy, and we have wonderful programs. People rave about the program on Shakespeare. There was an award-winning program on Muslims that was held by the library. I'm sure those people who are familiar with what they have to offer can think of many more things, but I just hope that you will pass this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Hi there.
I am Caleb Winters of 1002 Peoples Ave. I guess I did have comments on Resolution 48. I'm sorry to hear that it is not, that it was being pulled, because I think that's an important resolution. Sure.
Yeah, actually, if you just want to hold it.
Sure, that works.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I'm sorry to hear that Resolution 48 was pulled, because I think that's an important thing to have an early voting site in Troy, where the majority of Rensselaer County residents are.
As the sponsor, I sent Mara, what time, maybe about 2 o'clock, an email. As the sponsor, I have withdrawn it. I've withdrawn it as the sponsor. If you'd like to sponsor it for the next meeting, it'll go through committee, be on the agenda. Okay?
Were you able to negotiate with the county to locate an early voting site in Troy?
We can't converse at the public forum. I'd be
Yep.
happy to talk to you after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
Caleb?
certainly
Yep.
would be willing to sponsor that resolution.
You can sponsor it at the next
Can we just
meeting.
have unanimous consent?
No. You can't, because I vote no.
Point of order, we can't.
The point of order is at the chair. This is the public forum section. Caleb, please continue, then we'll discuss.
Yep, thank you.
Hold on, stuff that doesn't make sense.
No, it's fine. It's an important resolution. I'd also like all the committee members to support Resolution 43, which encourages Troy's participation in and the formation of the Capital Region Community Choice Aggregation Program. which will create local jobs, provide lower energy costs, increase access to renewable energy, and give us local control over our energy. And that's all I had for now. I had a lot of comments, some edits for Resolution 48, but I'll save those for later. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Caleb. And I'd be happy to talk to you after the finance.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, yep. Would anyone else like to speak on anything on the finance? Okay, we'll go into ordinance 54.
Excuse me,
Ordinance 54, yes,
I'm
Councilmember Parker.
Point of order. Possibly our legislative assistant can give me some advice on this.
He can't, parliamentary rules are governed by the chair.
Okay, Chair, Madam Chair.
Yes.
How do we get Resolution 48?
Anyone can introduce it through the normal process. It will be on the next agenda, whoever wants to introduce it. You can't just introduce it at a meeting.
Why?
I
So,
was the
excuse me,
sponsor,
I have the
I'm
floor.
withdrawing.
I'm not done.
Councilmember Perturb,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
So help me out here. What committee do I have to bring?
Yes,
this to?
no, you send a draft, or you send a request to the Corporation Council to draft the resolution. Have the language be what you'd like. The Corporation Council will then send it to myself per the rules and the pro tem. I will refer to committee, probably go to law. I'll refer to committee, and the law committee chair will have to schedule a meeting, and then it'll be on the next agenda. Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. Just tell me, are there time restraints upon which, like, when would I need to get it to the Corporation Council in order for a draft to happen, in order for me to chair the law committee?
Sure, council member, you could send it tomorrow as long as you have a law committee before the next council meeting, which is
Okay.
August 1st.
So it can be any time before.
Sure.
Great, thank you very much,
Council
Madam
President?
President.
Councilmember Cummings.
I'd just like to understand the authority by which you're just
As
pulling
the
it,
sponsor,
despite it being
yeah.
on our resolution.
Yeah,
In
as the
previous
sponsor.
similar instances,
Sure.
we've had opportunity for other people to take it on as sponsor. If you don't want to be,
When the sponsor requests another member, I am withdrawn as the
Why are you
sponsor.
withdrawing?
You have
I think
every
I
right.
think we and the public have the right to know
Council
why you're withdrawing.
member, there were technical issues. The two commissioners apparently agreed, and I was unable to move it. So saying that, you'll have to take it up with the Board of Elections. But be happy to sponsor the resolution.
I mean, I spoke to the Democratic Commission of Elections today, and it doesn't seem like there's a problem with this
You
resolution.
have to go through,
Before I go forward.
we have a couple of conversations going on. Councilmember Cummings has the floor. Councilmember Cummings, you could sponsor another resolution. I am withdrawing it as the sponsor. It's no longer on the agenda. Yes, Councilmember Kennedy.
What were the technical constraints that were?
They had already agreed upon the sites.
They can't hear in the back. Thank you.
Council President,
Thank you.
what were the technical constraints that, why we
The
couldn't have
two
a site?
commissioners already agreed upon the site. So if you can get them to agree upon a site in Troy, that would be great. But saying that, I'm withdrawing the rest. Okay? Councilmember
So
Garrett. Yes.
there's no early voting booth that's in the city of Troy, right?
Not yet.
So I'm sorry. So there's no early voting booth in the city of Troy. So in order for us to get it, you're saying that we have to put the resolution back on, correct?
No, well, it's up to the commissioners
Right.
ultimately. All this reso did was ask the commissioners to reconsider. I spoke to the commissioners. They are unwilling to do so. So I am withdrawing my resolution. I support having an early voting place here in the city of Troy. However, the commissioners have told me they will not.
They won't do it. Okay, so
So be happy to sponsor a reso.
yeah, I'm thinking that if we are going to try to push for the be an early voting location, we need to push for school too, because guess what? No Central, we don't have any voting location. We have to go all the way to 100 and what is that, third for the Knickerbocker Skating Rink. So if we're going to push for extra poll site, we need to push for school too.
Yeah, and Councilmember Garrett, I agree with that. The commissioners told me that budgetary constraints, that apparently That's why they put it where they did. But saying that,
we're the only district, we're the only district that have one location. So explain to me how fair that is. That's not right. What it's doing is creating a space to make people that don't have vehicles.
I agree.
To be able to get to the voting polls, that we're not able to vote.
Yeah.
I've been personally walking throughout North Central area and Hillside North and getting people to register. So I'm telling them that they can go vote, and I'm turning their paperwork, but then they don't know where to go or they can't get there. So
yeah,
all right.
I agree. And what I would do also, Councilmember Garrett, is in the reso state the site, where you may, because what I'm being told is budgetary constraints. Is that I don't know. We don't have that power. Just so folks are aware, the resolution requested the Board of Commissioners to reconsider, saying that I called them. It's not going to happen. If you guys have better luck, I'll fully support your reso, but saying that I am withdrawing mine tonight. And I did let the clerk know around 2 o'clock today.
Madam President.
Actually, council member.
Thank you. So just for the record, I've been advocating for an early voting site in Troy. I think it's a disservice to our community members that we don't have any one existing early voting site in our city. The counties surrounding the Rensselaer County on the west side of the Hudson River, Capital Region, every other county has early voting sites in their city cores. And I think it's vital that we do include one in there. And my question to you is, this is a resolution. What's preventing you from
listen, it's officially withdrawn. Okay. If we can move on, certainly Councilmember December, letters are great. You had every opportunity to draft a resolution, so please do so.
Yeah, I do have a resolution drafted. I'd like to introduce on unanimous consent.
You do not have my consent. So saying that.
Why not?
Can we do a slow roll?
You don't have a reso.
I have a reso.
You cannot just throw reso at the last minute.
It's been on the agenda.
Welcome, everyone.
The issue's been on the agenda for the public and free, because you put it there. We can read this version, and you can vote for it or not, but we'll vote on it soon, one way or another.
So my resolution for an early voting site speaks to the passage of the New York State law, which allows for early voting in every single county in our state 10 days prior to a general election, the first one beginning in 2019. This is a cornerstone of any democratic society, is to increase the enfranchisement of voters, and it will make our civil society stronger when more people are voting in our elections. There were 2 sites selected in Rensselaer County. Neither one of them was chosen in the city limits. As I noted in my letter to the editor, the city of Troy represents 31% of the entire county's population. We are the economic center. We are the population center of our county. And to the spirit of the law, it makes sense that we would want to include an early voting site in the city of Troy. Additionally, nearly 3/4 of all county residents who rely on public transportation or have no access to a personal vehicle live in the city of Troy. In other words, the folks who we're trying to make sure have access to the polls, most of those people live in our city. And so to the spirit of the law, it would be upon us to establish a site in our city, to increase that turnout, to make sure access is brought to all. This is a resolution that supports the location of a site in the city of Troy, and it would also allocate $7,500 from the city of Troy, contingent with Rensselaer County allocating a like amount to cover the cost of an early voting site. We were told by the Board of Elections Commissioners that the addition of one site would cost roughly $15,000. So this resolution not only would urge and recommend that we establish one in the city of Troy, but would allocate half of the funds to establish that site. I think my colleague, Councilmember Garrett, had a great idea in terms of the site location. This resolution speaks specifically to establishing the site in Troy, and I would request unanimous consent to add it to the agenda.
And I have a question before we take a vote. what I must tell you, I do like the idea of the budget because it addresses the Board of Elections Commissioners' concerns when I call them. Saying that, I would like to actually identify a site because what I was told by the Democrat through the Republican Board of Elections Commissioner is that the Democrat Board of Elections Commissioner stated that none of the schools could be used. I did mention the schools. I also mentioned there were 2 other public spots. They said no to all. I agree with Councilmember Garrett. If we are to do an early voting site, it should be in District 2. The only way I will support this is if it is in District 2. So saying that, I will not support any other site outside of District 2 right now because I truly believe that what Councilmember Garrett, in terms of just having the ice rink, it's very ironic that you mention this because District 4 has Kennedy Towers, but also RPI. District 3 has a few. District 4 shares it.
No, District 4 is just
District 4 is just Kennedy Towers and DMV. Sorry, DMV.
Yeah.
So saying that, you are correct. I will consider supporting this if potentially the Council A is sure about the $15,000 amount. And then number 2, it be located in District 2. If it's not located in District 2, I will not support it because I truly believe that District 2 is in need of a walking distance early
Council President.
polling spot. So saying that, Councilmember Parator.
Yes, is it appropriate, Councilmember December, for me to propose an amendment to your resolution? I'm sorry, I'm talking, thank you.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Is it appropriate for me to offer an amendment to your resolution that would include Councilwoman Garrett's suggestion that the actual site be School 2?
Well, a couple of things. So we have a motion on the floor for Resolution 48, stating that you are absolutely positive that's $15,000.
We can confirm the cost with the Commissioner of the Board of Elections.
Okay. Will Rensselaer County do the $7,500? Because it did.
That's a great question.
Put it in their
You
court
know,
here.
but here's the deal. Hi, Councilmember Gully. Councilmember Gully is present for the finance meeting. So saying that, what I want in here, we'll develop language A, that it is totally contingent on Rensselaer County because obviously for us, correct.
Certainly,
With
that,
the
and that
7,500.
contingency language is
Okay.
included in here.
So Rensselaer County will have to, however they want to, come up with the 7,500. And I would like to ask, add a line to the resolution that this is contingent on the early voting site being located in District 2.
Council President?
Yes.
You're
Councilmember.
telling the city of Troy residents that the only way they'll get a voting site is if there's a voting site in District 2 and there's no other plan B that you're allowing them to have?
I would like District 2 to have the early voting site.
Let's recommend it. Let's not make it contingent upon that. My thought, first off, is if School 2 isn't viable, because you already said that the
District
commission.
2.
School 2, I said it's School 2.
Okay, sorry, District 2. As long
I
as
said,
it's in
okay, I just
District
said School 2. If School 2 isn't available as a voting site, I don't really foresee any other viable sites in District 2. So I think you're.
St. Patrick's potentially, if we're able to talk to
Okay.
Mr. McCandless.
So
There's other sites.
So if there are no sites in District 2, you're saying that the city of Troy doesn't deserve to have an additional site?
What we can do is put language,
Council
strong
President.
recommendation, some type of language where District 2. But here's what I don't want to happen, honestly, I think we're all in agreement here. I don't want us to pass a resolution and it's out of our control right now. Think about it. We don't have an early voting site in Troy. Why? Because the Board of Elections Commissioners agreed upon a site outside of Troy. I don't want us hammered when the site is maybe all the way in an area, say, on the border of the city of Troy, where it's going to be anyway, near Brunswick. Let's make a strong recommendation, because the whole idea of early voting is to make it accessible to the people that can't have transportation. Thank you,
So,
Councilmember
Madam President,
Hutchinson.
can I go back
Yes.
to what I proposed a
Yes.
few rounds ago, which is to add an amendment to this, saying whereas blah, 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 we would like it to be at school 2 in District 2. And if the Board of
So let's
Election,
say in
I'm not
District
done talking. I'm not done talking. Please don't interrupt when I'm talking. Thank you. I try not to interrupt you. I would like you to say we would like the new voting site to be at school 2 because it is centrally located and accessible to a majority of District 2 residents who do not have transportation to get to these outlier sites. And if the Board of Election Commissioner wants to say that it can't be at a school, I think we can legally question and challenge that, because I go to school 14 often to vote on things, and that's a school in my district. So I don't really buy it that school 2 can't be the official designated voting site.
Right, Councilmember Parator, all I was seeing was District 2, so we don't corner us if they say school 2. So Councilmember Guerra, I think you agree, District 2, rather than just pin
But
it
District
into
2 is
school 2.
Lansingburg too.
So what I was
Yes.
saying school 2 because it's
Correct.
close to the Hillside North and North Central, but I don't want to say if it can be, even if it could be Troy Prep, whatever, but we don't want it to say a particular school and then we can't get it.
I think
Yeah,
that's,
so
So
you
we want to
wanna-
say Hillside
We want
North
to say,
Central?
right.
We want it in the Hillside North Central part of
I have a
school 2,
potential.
of District 2.
Yes, I think we have language. Councilmember Cummings and I were kind of talking.
So yeah, I guess the core of it for me is making sure that it's certainly accessible on a bus transit as well, and accessible in terms of parking availability, et cetera. And so I think certainly school 2 is an option. I'm wondering if we can say, recommend school 2, but then ideally in election district 10 or 10, 11, or 17, which are not all District 2, but they're all walking distance to that North Central neighborhood. 11 might get too far out. What do you think?
All right, let's look at it. Let's see.
I'm a little troubled that this is a very big, important issue. People in Hillside and North Central should be able to walk or take an easy bus to vote. So I'm a little concerned that we're going off now and looking at election
Yeah,
districts
I would
instead of,
District 2. Let's just say District 2. I agree.
I don't want to have, I don't want to get to a space where we say school 2, and they say no.
okay,
Right.
We don't have the other options.
I hear you.
There's
So,
certainly other
Would
options.
you go with North Central Hillside?
It's that area.
The North Central / Hillside areas of District 2.
Central.
So, Councilmember Gully, just to bring you up to speed, only because you just got here, and I truly appreciate you driving 3 hours to get here. It is a very important night. So this is a resolution that is requesting, I withdrew my earlier one on the early voting. So this is a resolution because the Board of Elections Commissioners I had a discussion with, and long story short, Councilmember December is proposing what you have in your hand, Resolution 48. And Councilmember Garrett, we discussed before you got here, adding District 2 to this resolution. So saying that we will make a strong recommendation, a line in here stating that that District 2 be strongly considered as the early voting site here in the city of Troy. But first, we need unanimous consent to get the resolution on. And then secondly, we will amend it. But first, there needs to be unanimous consent to get the resolution on.
Madam President, I'm going to say probably for the fourth time, I think we agree on District 2, but I'm in agreement with my colleague, Ms. Garrett, that we should specify District 2 is a very large district. It's basically split in half. We have Lansingburg down to 101. We have North Side, Hillside. I would like to say that we want this new early voting site to be in the north central Hillside part of District 2. I don't want to leave it open in District 2.
Councilmember Garrett, because you already, well, think about it. Remember, there is no early voting site right now. So saying that, the ice rink could technically still be looked at. It is at least in the vicinity, but saying that,
That's a whole.
The reason why I was suggesting that it be in that area is because we don't have one at all, so we're killing two birds with one stone. If we get the early voting space, and then also we can give North Central and Hillside North an area to go vote, because the problem is that exactly accessible for people to get to.
no, that's good. All right, so let's specify,
Council
Councilmember Gully.
President,
Yeah.
I've been sitting here patiently waiting for
Councilmember
numerous
Gully.
minutes, and I agree with everybody. So maybe it's just in the verbiage that we use. If there's a few sites within District 2 that are priority to where you'd like the location to be, why don't we just say that we would like to have these locations primarily in one of these three spots within District 2, so that we're giving them a couple of parameters of places we would like to see in one of those three. This way we can cut it down and minimize it to what they know we want, and hopefully we can get results from the Board of Election and into that area, which I think we can.
Fair enough. We are all in agreement. So let's first, we have to vote on the actual resolution 48 to put it on the agenda. It's a new resolution. Somebody just texted me, just for folks out there watching. The initial resolution, I apologize, number, you have to change the number. Resolution 48 is withdrawn. You cannot number this resolution 48. So, it's got to be a new number. Can we do, only because we have to check, because we may already have a resolution 49. Resolution 49, this is a new reso, folks, so for the folks that texted me and said you can't amend a withdrawn resolution, I understand that, thank you. So anyway, Resolution 49, the resolution basically models the Resolution 48, but it does add, which I am happy to see, as long as we have 7,500. Have you identified the funding of where our 7,500 is going to be? And there will have to be a budget transfer, and I don't see that attached to this legislation. So we have to know where we're going to get the money. So Councilmember December, you have to, we can't just say 7,500, just where is the money? Just so we have to.
Council President, I think we did talk with Andy about this. I don't know if Andy or the mayor are available just to speak to availability of funds.
Excuse me, is Andy available to speak to
not here tonight?
Okay. Could anyone speak to the availability of funds in the reserve to find $7,500? Could someone in the administration? Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I know the council, we don't have it, so as long as the mayor can commit to 7,500.
I can't say specifically what accounts at this time, but there are some accounts that are underutilized. There's a consulting account in the mayor's office that has some dollars left in it. We can pull a few from there, a few from the contingency. I'm not concerned. This came up rather late in the day, so we didn't have a chance to put together a budget amendment yet.
Okay.
But we can do that in a subsequent meeting. There's a meeting on August 1st. We can handle that.
Yeah. I'm totally cool with that.
Yep.
I just need assurance that we can get money.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank
All
you.
right, so, Resolution 49, let's take a quick slow roll to add it to the Finance Committee. It would have to first go through. So, Councilmember Gully.
Yes.
Councilmember Garrett.
Yes.
Councilmember Perry.
Yes.
Councilmember Cummings.
Yes.
Councilmember December.
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Yes.
Council President Mantello, yes. Now I will make a motion to amend Resolution 49, and I'd like to add the sentence.
There's two options here. One, if we're talking about North Central, we're talking about election districts 9 and 10. The other option, which was just texted to me as well, was that we make the funding also contingent on our approval of the location selected.
Number two?
Then number two would be to keep a little control. Number two would be to keep a little control in our, rather than cede it in any way, keep our own control and say the contingency is based on our approval of the location selected.
I like that.
Because we're gonna have to do a budget transfer anyway.
True,
So this will
okay,
actually start
so
that
you know what,
process.
I like the start of that process, and let's, that's very good. I think that works.
Great.
I do.
So we'll add
Yep.
be it further resolved, or contingent on Rensselaer County. Contingent on Rensselaer County, and no, just, well, there's a third.
Well,
Be it further resolved
further resolved.
that such funds are contingent on.
Be it further resolved that that the funding, correct, new paragraph. Be it further resolved that any City of Troy funding is contingent upon the City of Troy agreeing on the location, and be it further resolved, sorry,
Wait, that any City of Troy funding is contingent
on City Council approval of the early voting site location, and be it further resolved that the early voting site location be located in
The North Central area.
But also, can we add that it's after the early voting, make that something permanent, because don't tease people and make them think that, okay, this spot just for a month, and then we don't have one for next year. So it needs to be set some kind of way.
the Board of Elections will,
Okay.
yeah, this will be for 2019, yeah.
The early voting site location will be where?
In the hillside, north central sections, area or sections, what would you say, Councilwoman Garrett?
They speak election. They
Should be in the north central area, should be in the north central area of District 2. Should be in the north central area of District 2.
Okay, can you reread that,
Can I?
please?
Be it further resolved that any City of Troy funding is contingent on the City Council approval of the early voting site location. Be it further resolved, the early voting site location.
No.
It is recommended.
Strongly recommended that the early voting
It is
location
strongly
be
recommended.
located in election districts 9.
No, I don't want to say election
No,
district
just
9
say
or
the
10.
north central area
Of District 2.
of District 2.
It is strongly recommended that the early voting site location.
Be the north central area? North central area of District 2.
In the north central area.
Okay, read the first sentence again slowly.
Be it further resolved that any City of Troy funding is contingent
Upon City Council approval.
Be it further resolved that any City of Troy funding is contingent upon City Council approval of the early voting site location. Be it further resolved, it is strongly recommended that the early voting site location is be in the north central area of District 2.
Perfect. So do we, that I made the motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Second, Councilmember Parator and Garrett. Discussion on the amendment.
I have a question.
Councilmember Gully.
Don't you think those two issues should be reversed? And the first should be that we specifically want the area in District 2.
Perfect, yeah.
And the second, that the funding would be
Yep.
contingent upon that location
That's good.
selection.
I agree.
First, we want to tell them what we want.
Yeah.
Then we tell them they're not going to get it, they don't do it.
That's
Totally perfect.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gully makes a motion. I'll second it. All in favor on the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mara, you have it. On the amended resolution 49, Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember
Second.
Kennedy. Do I have a second? Councilmember Gully. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, you just saw bipartisan discussion and impact. All right.
On something
Resolution 49 has
Thank you,
gone through the Finance Committee.
Now we got the rest of the finance committee.
Now we have the rest. Hang tight, folks. All right.
You mean
Yes.
that's the first thing you did all this time?
Yes.
I guess we are right ahead of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you ate dinner. No. Ordinance 54. Ordinance 54. Ordinance transferring funds within the 2019 garbage fund budget. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Gully. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Parator. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 54 passes 7-0. Ordinance 55, ordinance amending the general fund and capital projects fund budgets. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Gully. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Parator. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ordinance 55 carries 7-0. Ordinance 56, ordinance transferring funds within the 2019 water fund budget. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Parator. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember December. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 56 carries 7-0. Ordinance 57, ordinance transferring funds within the 2019 general fund budget. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Kennedy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 57 carries 7-0. Ordinance 58, ordinance amending the code of the City of Troy, Section 216-13, Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Cummings. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Kennedy. I am going to make a motion to amend, just so folks out there, this is the pool operating hours and fees. And what I would like to do is strike section 1, where section 1, subsection 1, daily fees. For city residents, I'd like to strike that line and just state that city residents' pool fees will be waived for 2019. The reasoning behind it is pretty simple. We don't know when the pool will be open. We are hopeful that the pool will open at the end of July, maybe. We were told that at the general services meeting. However, it might be early August, mid-August, who knows? But at best, you're looking at maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks at best that the pool's open. I truly believe, this being the third year, that pools potentially will be closed. They've been closed for a couple of years now. So saying that, I think it's only fair for city residents to not have any fee. And if you think about the 2018, when we talked about the 2019 budget, we never put in monies for revenue. So if somebody said we were losing $2 or $3 grand, I mean, you're talking not a lot of money in a $70 million budget. But more importantly, there was no revenue line for the pools this year. So basically, my amendment proposed for this would be just to strike out daily fees and put in pool fees are waived for city residents for 2019. So I'm making a motion. There is no discussion until we have a second. Councilmember Kennedy. Second, and then we can discuss. There's a first and second. There isn't. If you look right now, city residents 13 and up will pay $2 daily. Okay, so my resolution, or my amendment to this ordinance. We have a motion, we have a second, Councilmember Parator. Further discussion? Councilmember Garrett.
So, okay, so we're charging anyone 13 years.
The proposed 13 and up would be $2 daily.
So I have concerns with that.
Okay,
So-
my amendment would waive that, strike it out.
Just for one
Make
year
it
though.
for this year, and then I figure for 2020, we can talk about at the end of the year, the budget, okay?
I just want to make, I'm not gonna be at the end of the year. So,
Yeah, you will,
well,
you'll be here.
for the
Oh, yeah, for the budget,
Okay.
oh, yeah. You're
I
gonna
still
be
want to
here.
say what I gotta say.
Yeah, please.
The kids that's coming from, you have kids that are outside and about on their own throughout the summer, and they may not have $2 to get in. So I think that age should be raised to maybe 18. There's a lot of kids that, in my district in particular, that been going to the pool when both the pools was open, and they were going with their parents just saying, okay, you can go, and they're out and about all day long.
Yeah.
So to charge them $2, I think that should be, the age should be 18 years old, not 13.
I want to waive it for all residents, free. It's only gonna be 3-4 weeks at best, maybe 5. I mean, it's all gonna depend, so. But Councilmember Garrett, for 2020, we can talk about, the age, et cetera, the fees, that we'll talk about during budget time. Councilmember Cummings, then Councilmember Parator.
I had some initial concerns around this in terms of just the process that this is the code. I definitely support the idea of waiving fees for now. But given the public comment, there's also some questions as to why age 13 is the level, how residency is established. So it does seem like it would make some sense to me to basically strike this right now. I would like to just hear from the administration as to how the age 13 was decided upon. But it sounds like really we're talking about having a more in-depth discussion about these fee structures for next year.
Absolutely. And I do think larger discussion in terms of even the non-residents, the 13 and up, what 13-year-old is going to have ID. I mean, so
Right.
saying that, I do think a more in-depth discussion does have to be discussed. I also believe that later on in the agenda, when we talk about the agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of the Capital Region, we can talk about the whole identification process. I would like to further discuss that. So there's a motion.
I asked for floor.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Councilmember Parator.
I wholeheartedly second Councilwoman Garrett's suggestion that there be no fee for children under the age of 18. I live and represent District 3, which borders District 2, and I'm in District 2 often because I do a lot of work at school too. And there are many, many children who parents are working full-time, and children are with other children, they're visiting other friends, and they may not have a buck or two in his or her pocket at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I wholeheartedly agree with not charging any Troy children under the age of 18 to get into the pool. And I understand that this is a discussion that needs to be held as we talk about the budget for the next year. But can we put some language in here that gets the ball rolling, that says that this council will be strongly considering?
I would say at the budget time, maybe we can recommend. I mean, think about, we have control of the legislative process. I think during the budget time, we just recommend that anyone under 18 be free. Okay. And that will be our recommendation for the budget. Okay, cool. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
On the amendment? Aye. Opposed? Okay, on the amended ordinance, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Parator, second.
I'll second that.
Second, Councilmember Kennedy, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Yeah, I mean, so right now we're striking it, replacing it with just for the 20.
Correct.
So then
20.
there is
Correct.
some uncertainty if we don't amend this again.
Well, look, we should
So we'll
have
have
a
to
general
amend it again.
services and talk about, yes, totally agree. I just figured for now, let's get it in place for 2019. So we have a motion, we have a second, we did take a vote, but Councilmember Cummings had a question. So once again, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, ordinance 58 is carried and pool fees are waived 2019 for city residents. Now we need to open it. All right, ordinance 59, ordinance authorizing settlement in finance. Ordinance authorizing settlement in Myers v. City of Troy, New York. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Councilmember Kennedy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember December. I am going to ask our Corporation Counsel to come up and discuss this potential settlement. Thank you, Mr. Caruso.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this point in time, I am going to respectfully request that Councilmember Gully not participate in the discussion or the vote on this. And no offense to him.
Council President, I planned on recusing myself from the vote anyways because of the attachment.
Thank you.
I don't know how the information would change since I'm not voting. I have no direct contact with any of that. So it's really not necessary for me to leave and go anywhere.
Oh, no, I wasn't suggesting that you leave. Of course not.
Jim, I suggest you go back to Lake Placid. No.
Were you in Lake Placid? I'd go back. Anyway.
Thank you. We agree. Thank you, Mr. Caruso.
And your questions, fire away.
I would just, in a nutshell, obviously, you made mention this is more of a business decision.
That's correct. That's correct.
It hasn't gone to the courts. This is totally what you feel is in the best interest of the taxpayer.
We received an adverse determination from Judge, I believe it was McNally, on the issue of liability in this case. We looked at what the potential liability for the city was from a purely dollars and cents point of view. There's no question, I'm not going to try to tell you otherwise. Ms. Myers was intoxicated on the evening of the incident. The medical records are replete with notations that she was in fact intoxicated. There's no question she was trespassing. It was in the early morning hours and she should not have been there. I wish I had $1 for every time I've explained to somebody why it is we're settling this case. The status of somebody as a trespasser as far as liability in New York is irrelevant. Nevertheless, this woman did something that we would all agree was extremely foolish. She fell. She was injured. She was injured fairly substantially. If you want, I can just read from her bill of particulars provided by her attorney the various injuries she suffered.
Well, actually, I imagine a lot of people sitting here don't know all the specific facts. So please, why don't you just give us the little quick.
Okay, according. Wait.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
I
Councilmember.
don't know if we should be sharing somebody's medical.
Oh no, this is a bit. This is. I'm not sharing her medical records. This is her attorney's allegations and her bill of particulars. They claim, now remember the burden of proof at trial would have been on plaintiff to prove a spinal burst fracture at L1 with encroachment at the spinal cord, a comminuted right inferior and superior rami fractures. I don't know what that means. Bilateral sacral ala fractures with S3 involvement. I do know what L1 and S3 have, as I have back problems myself. She had a spinal cord injury. She required medical intervention. I believe surgery was required. She has conditions. She has relatively severe orthopedic injuries that, with the input of the Michael Ginsburg, we were involved. The mayor was involved in what it was we would offer to make this case basically go away. We arrived at the figure of 120. Needless to say, the plaintiff wanted a lot more money than that. We stood firm as to what we would settle. I've been doing this for 37 years. I've had significant experience working in Supreme Court as to what people injured like this get. And I do believe, and I can verily state to the City Council, that $120,000 is a fair and reasonable settlement amount.
Council President.
Council member.
I recall someone in the audience had a question related to preventative measures post this case.
Yes.
In terms of the site, has it been fenced off?
Yes.
Yes, fences went up. It's difficult when the media reports what the city didn't do. The city did a lot to prevent people from going there. Boarding it up with different screw heads. People would come prepared with cordless drills with different screw heads to open up a fill-up, a slotted. These people came ready, willing, and able to gain entrance to this building. Short of building a concrete wall, I know I joked about a moat with alligators in it. Of course, we couldn't do that. We'd get in trouble for that. We took substantial, and we even had, last year, the 4th of July, we had a Troy police detail there all night to keep people from going in because they were finding a way to go in. This particular case, my recollection of the facts is this woman went up a ladder to gain access to the roof, which in and of itself was incredibly dangerous, not including the fact that she was intoxicated. So we took steps subsequent to that to prevent people from getting there. Unfortunately, people still got in there.
Council member Parator.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Caruso, did I understand you correctly that even though this woman was inebriated and trespassing
That is correct.
on city-owned property,
That is correct.
the rule of law requires us to pay damages anyway? Explain that, what you said before.
Not exactly. Let me back up. Okay. Ms. Myers' status as a trespasser has really no effect on our liability. New York does not rank people. It used to, some states still do, as a licensee, an invitee, or a trespasser. New York doesn't do that. All right, so the fact that she was trespassing is essentially irrelevant. Going to the issue of her intoxication. In New York, what we have, and I believe we might have discussed this before, but I'll say it again. We have a rule of law called comparative negligence. So when you sue somebody and you claim that you were injured because of their negligence, they can defend the case and they could say that you were also negligent, and the jury does exactly what it says. They compare the negligence of the parties. So they would have taken into account the fact that Ms. Myers was intoxicated. They would have taken into account the fact that Ms. Myers was a substantial cause of her injuries. However, we don't know going in what kind of apportionment the jury is going to do. So if they say she was injured to the tune of $3 million and they even assess her with 50% liability, the city of Troy would still be liable for half of that, or $1.5 million. By taking this settlement, we're avoiding the dangers, the risks of going to trial and having the jury come back and award her a substantial sum of money.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Caruso.
You're welcome.
Council member Garrett.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, good job. I think that we probably should settle. My time working at St. Mary's and Samaritans, there was plenty of people who was going in here getting injured. So this is probably the first one I'm hearing that
actually
have a lawsuit. So we might want to take the deal and keep moving.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Garrett. And in answer to your question, Councilmember December, to dovetail what Mr. Caruso stated, the council actually appropriated monies subsequently to this horrendous event to ensure that the Leonard Hospital was obviously bolted up, boulders were put there, fencing, as Mr. Caruso mentioned, police officers were on detail. So the council did appropriate some money subsequently to that. And knock on wood, I don't believe we've had any events since then stating that remediation is about to happen within the next couple of weeks. So hopefully we'll see that demolished soon.
Council about $160,000, if I recall.
That was 130 to 60, somewhere in that range. But we did not use the full 160. I know for certain of that. So Thank you. Does anyone else have questions for Mr. Caruso on this? Thank you, Jim. Honestly,
You're welcome.
I do agree with you. I think that this makes financial sense for the taxpayer.
I do too. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Further discussion. Councilmember Gully is recused. He will abstain. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so yeah, ordinance 59 carries 6-0 and 1 abstaining. Ordinance 60, ordinance amending the code of the city of Troy, chapter 39. Councilmember Kennedy. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Parator. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Gully. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 60 carries 7-0. Resolution 43. Resolution to express interest in the Capital Region Community Choice Aggregation Energy Program. Councilmember Cummings, Councilmember Kennedy. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Parator. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Garrett wins that one. Discussion. All in favor? Councilmember Cummings? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 43 carries 7-0. Resolution 44, resolution authorizing and ratifying the memorandum of agreement by and between the City of Troy and the Civil Service Employees Association, CSEA. Council President Mantello at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember Cummings. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Parator. Discussion, I just want to congratulate the administration and CSEA on a contract that I think is fair. Our CSEA employees obviously are guts to keeping our streets clean. And I do give kudos to the administration, CSEA, to coming to agreement on this. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 44 carries 7-0. Resolution 45, resolution appointing members of the Troy Environmental Protection Commission. Councilmember Kennedy, Councilmember Cummings, Councilmember December. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Parator. Do I have a second? Second, Councilmember Garrett. Discussion. Councilmember Cummings, yeah.
Let's make a motion to amend the title and language within, everywhere it says protection, strike that and change to conservation. There was some back and forth here around the language. Within the resolution, within the current code, it did say environmental protection, but we just voted to amend that, so.
Okay. I'll second your amendment, Councilmember Cummings. Do we have discussion, or do we have a motion on the amendment?
I'll make a motion.
I'm sorry, motion second. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 45 is amended. On the amended resolution, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, Councilmember December. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Garrett. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 45 amended is carried 7-0. Resolution 46, resolution in support of the Troy Public Library grant application to conduct a historic structure report. Councilmember Cummings. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Parator. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Garrett. Discussion. All in favor?
Excuse me.
Councilmember
I'm
Parator.
sorry. I was just looking for the specifics on that. What
Yeah,
amount of money that is?
I'll speak to it briefly.
Yeah,
So the Troy Public Library is applying for a grant for a,
CFA.
right, through the CFA, through the historic preservation funding, for a historic structures report. They don't know exactly what the cost is going to be. I think they're still waiting, unless you got that back. Last I heard, the estimate was going to be $65,000 to $75,000.
That's what it
They're
says.
still waiting on a proposal, or a few proposals, and then they'll get those final numbers. But obviously, we're not allocating any funding. We're just supporting their application to the state historic preservation office for this funding, which will allow them to conduct a study and enhance the ability of the library to continue to serve residents for years to come.
Thank you, Councilmember Cummings. I would just like to wholeheartedly support this. As someone who, when I moved back to Troy 10 years ago, one of the first things I did was step forward to run for a library trustee, and I served 3 years on the library board. We have a jewel in Troy, and it's an historic building with Tiffany glass windows and a lot of statuary and fancy things. That's one thing. But it is also the public library for the city of Troy, and a large percentage of individuals who do not have computers and access to the internet go there in search of information on health, jobs, kids do their homework there. So anything we can do to support a motion to support a grant to help move the library forward has my wholehearted support.
We have a motion, we have a second, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 46 carries 7-0. Resolution 47, resolution authorizing the mayor designee to enter into a contract with the Boys and Girls Club of the capital area for the purpose of administering and operating the South Troy Pool facility until August 31st, 2019. Council President Mantello, at the request of the administration, sorry about that. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Councilmember Kennedy, do I have a second? Second, Councilmember Parator. Just so folks are aware, I had several questions. I do appreciate the deputy mayor responded to the questions. I started looking at them. I received the answers to many of my questions later this afternoon, but I would actually ask the deputy mayor to come up, and if we could just go over a couple of these, that'd be great.
Good evening.
Right. Good evening. I know it's already been a long night, Deputy Mayor. Saying that, my first question, just so folks out there are aware, I asked, was an RFP sought through the normal procurement process for operating the South Troy Pool? The Deputy Mayor responded, it's a pilot program. I understand the agreement was a template from Schenectady. And
would you just like me to read? I can respond. I can answer the question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah.
So this is a pilot program. The city of Schenectady actually operates their pools through the Boys and Girls Club in Schenectady. The template that we provided as the agreement is a template directly from Schenectady. It's a really great program. In fact, previous years when there was concern over the operation of the pools, Schenectady elected officials actually approached us on the county level and the local level about singing the praises of being able to operate in a third-party agreement like this. The Troy Boys and Girls Club, or the Capital Region Boys and Girls Club now, has a great connection to the residents of the city. They provide access to all of the city. But on top of that, they're also very experienced with hiring lifeguards. They have their own pool. They're familiar with the county health department process, as well as creating emergency action plans and pool rules and regulations, as well as being able to train the staff themselves. So we thought for the first year, since this is something that is different for us, we would just do a pilot program. And then if it provided a positive experience for both sides, then we would look to actually do an RFP process potentially for 2020.
Yeah, and on that note, Monica, and just so folks are aware, I'm not opposed at all to the Boys and Girls Club of the Capital Region. I just, in terms of them operating, I just have just some real, especially about this. You mentioned a third-party arrangement, but it's between the city of Troy and the Boys and Girls Club. Who's the third party?
No, meaning it's a separate person, a separate company that's operating it. So it's a second party. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't
the Boys
think
and Girls
it'd be
Club.
a third party.
The first is the city, the second is the student, the kids. The
right.
third is the.
That's how
Boys and
your
Girls Club.
text says now.
Okay.
Maybe the first is the kids.
Yeah, exactly. All right. The second question I had, just so folks are aware, the dates of the contract, and I guess I know you answered that one, Monica.
Yeah.
But it goes back to June 1st.
Correct. So when we originally presented this, they've been actually working on this since June 1st. Because we've had to put the operating agreement together. We had to look at how we were going to staff this up. We've had to look for kids to actually work at the pools and students to work. So it's an agreement that lasts for a longer period of time than the actual physical operation of the pools, because you have administrative functions that handle before and post. You're going to have pool closeouts. You're going to have finishing stuff that you need to do, just tidying up. And that's why.
Totally get that. Just the administration did not have council approval to do that. So just in the future, I mean, council approval, yeah, but we're going back to June 1st. I'm saying
we do a lot of
administration
understood
have the approval prior, and that's all I'm saying. In the future, prior to conducting the whole arrangement, et cetera, just council approval.
Understood. And like we talked about before, we have other youth services agreements with other groups where we don't do this process and still provide additional funding and stuff.
If I could just ask folks, the acoustics in here are absolutely horrific. It's really not a chamber. Any conversations, if you could go in the hallway, that'd be great. And there are seats up front for anyone in the back that would like to sit. Sorry, Monica.
So that's okay. So we do have other youth services agreements with the CYO, with the Troy Boys and Girls Club, the Lansingburg Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA for summer youth that follow the same process. It's just that this was the one that the city council had asked to be presented to them, which is why there's a delay, a late component to it.
Yep. And then the budget.
Yep.
And regarding the days, I know it's a minimum, but it specifically excludes Sundays. It conflicts with the days that are proposed by the administration. So if you
wait, okay, you just said the budget, and then you were talking about days. What do you? Which one?
First, and then we'll hit the days.
Okay, so going back to the budget, so you're talking about under section 4. Or are you talking about where are you talking about?
Let's see. That is, I thought it was in section 3.
Section 3 is the personnel and background checks.
It's in E, Monica, the total 4E. Value.
Correct.
So 4E. Sorry. Yes. And I would imagine we'll probably get the budget transfer in August.
Yeah, there's one in here already. There's one in we talked about that you just already approved in the finance meeting. So this is a proposed budget. This is Adrian. He's the CFO of the Boys and Girls Club. He actually puts this together for us. I know I had to put my glasses on. So it is actually proposed. We put dates in that we are, it's a moving target right now due to the issues we're having right now. So, but what this does do is, since we did partner with them to open up the pool at the Boys and Girls Club for public swim Monday through Friday from 6 to 8, as well as Saturdays and Sundays, this includes that staff time as well, because we do have staff that we're trying to make sure that they stay our staff for when the pool does open up. So you'll see this is a breakdown right now. And what I did is I asked them to include the budget from July 20th. I am not saying that the pool is opening July 20th, but I had to put a number in just to run numbers. So July 20th to August 25th. The budget is approximately $86,515. This takes into consideration the complete operation of the pool. This is promotion and marketing of the pool. This is making sure that word gets out that the pool is open. This is making sure that the pool is staffed. I gave you the full rundown below, which Adrian put in. You can see how many staff members are at the pool. And Council President, as you know, your son worked there. That's a lot of staff that has to be at that pool. The occupancy is 240. So at any given time, you can have 240 youths and adults running around that pool. So you have to have the coverage for it. So it gives you a good indication. There is staff. There are supervisors included in this. There's an overhead cost for the administration of it as well, too. It includes the liability and the insurance that we certainly want to make sure. It includes training the staff. So this is an all-inclusive budget that includes everything that is done to be able to operate those pools. Like I said, this is a moving target. If you would like to use this dollar amount as a as a not to exceed dollar amount for that line item. As I said earlier, we can add that money, that we can add that into that column once we have a little bit firmer number to do that. But we can certainly include that 86,500 as a not to exceed. And then if we do exceed it, then we have to come back.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
But this is, I mean, I have to give a lot of credit. The Boys and Girls Club did a tremendous amount of work putting this budget together for us. They started out with the opening of July 1st. So they've done a tremendous job putting us so that we have some real accurate indication of what this is going to cost. And it's a really good indicator of what, if we run it, this should cost us going forward.
Yep.
All right. So it's a really good budgeting tool for us as well.
Okay. Moving along, the whole Sunday, the minimum, I just saw it conflicted with the proposed days.
Yeah. And that's fine. We can change them if you want. We originally said, again, this was a template from Schenectady. They were basically saying that the pool has to be open a minimum of 4 hours Monday through Saturday. Schenectady does not open their pools on Sundays. So this is just a minimum. This is just a minimum. We're setting the hours in the code, and that's what we want to say. But this is just saying, setting a standard of these are 4 hour minimums. We can certainly take the Monday through Friday, 12:30 to 6:30, Saturday, Sunday, 12:30 to 4:30, and insert them into this contract.
I would appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Just to make sure that Sunday's in. Moving along, the whole thing of the private usage, Monica.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. I guess the big thing, because it's not the Troy Boys and Girls Club, it's the Boys and Girls Capital Region. Regarding the private usage, as I mentioned to you, in the city code, it allows the mayor to authorize private usage of city property. And it's stating, and I know that you stated, promote the public good and welfare. And I get the whole public good and welfare, but who is going to monitor the private usage? And when you talk about public good and welfare, how do we know they're all going to be Troy residents? And I guess, what do you foresee of the private usage of the pool?
So it's just an option for them to do. So so I think what's going on here, so you have the permission to use a city property. So the 5-day component, right? So we also set forward a terms and condition operating agreement. So it's no different than the Freer Park ice rink. If you talk about the Freer Park ice rink or this kind of agreement, we're entering into a standing agreement with terms and conditions that they have to meet as well as us have to meet. No, but listen, so at the same time, the permission to use a city property, in my view, and I don't, Jim Caruso can.
I'm sorry, Monica. If I could just ask folks in the back, I'm really sorry. We have to get through this agreement. Please just try to tone it down. Thank you.
Okay. So I believe what 2.2-14 is actually referring to is probably the use of our city parks and our city facilities with a permit. We have a special event permit that goes through the city council. The interior, the administration actually signs off on that, and it's not anything over 5 days. We're actually entering into an agreement for a longer period of time that.
Excuse me. Thank you. If our sergeant at arms could ask them, thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
So this is obviously longer than 5 days. That's why we're going into an operating agreement with them and entering into a contract. So, as far as the private use of it or for their personal selves, they are a charitable organization. They are a non-for-profit. They do promote and extend good health and good welfare throughout our city, with a majority of their members are members of our city. So again, if it's not something that you want in the contract, then we can certainly strike it, but it's certainly something that has been beneficial in Schenectady. They do need to get approval to use it, and it states it in our rules and regulations. We do have a swim team that comes and uses the pool as well. So those are the things that are going to be, we'll have to talk about.
Yeah, I
If you want to take that out,
some language, yeah, or whatever, I think you can recommend something, I'm open, I just don't want to see it abused, obviously, you know.
well, we
private
can
usage
certainly say, why don't we say to not to exceed 5 days?
is fair,
Okay.
all right?
Yep.
Okay, and then the last was the background checks,
Yep. So they this contract actually came. The Boys and Girls Club were the ones who pulled this contract for us and presented it to us. We obviously made it City of Troy specific. They're aware of those background checks. They are a company that deals with youth and services, so background checks are pretty standard in their industry, especially because of the youth component to it. So they didn't foresee any issues. They have reviewed this document, so I don't foresee any issues.
okay. Do they work with Gabrielle? I mean, I know.
They're not our employees.
So no contact at all, okay. And then lastly, will Detroit, do they hire outside, do you know, Monica, or do they do the background checks in-house? Do they hire a contractor?
I'm not sure.
You know?
The contract outlines that they have to perform them, so whether I'm sure they probably do a third-party component to that, or a third-party, there I did it again, an outside agency
Yeah.
that they probably do. I know a lot of times with background checks and fingerprinting checks when you're dealing with youth, sometimes they, especially over a certain age, they have to go through the state system.
Okay. I do want to thank you for answering all my questions.
No problem.
And I know that this is lengthy, but it's new. It's certainly uncharted waters, no pun intended. And, you know, certainly I just wanted to make sure that there was no liability on the city's behalf. Sounds like a pretty good arrangement, as you stated.
The only staff we'll have is that overnight security componont of that. We'll be looking at that. Well, I mean, traditionally, in all the years that we've operated the pool, we've had some sort of a night staff, a night watchman, just to make sure kids aren't getting in there. And they work traditionally from like whenever the pool closes to like 2 a.m. So that we will still bring on that person as part-time employment through the recreation department. And there's funding in that for that. So just as a safeguard measure, just to make sure that people aren't getting in the pool when they shouldn't be.
Okay. And the chemicals,
We'll still handle all that.
Budget transfer for that, because I don't think there was a line item.
Well, a lot of the
for
chemicals
this
are
year.
already included for this year.
Okay.
So we should be able to accommodate that.
All right. Fair
And we
enough.
still do buy chemicals and cleaners and stuff like that because we do have all the fountains.
Okay.
So there's money in the budget line for that.
Okay. Fair enough. Did anyone else have questions for the deputy mayor on this proposed agreement?
Deputy Mayor, thank you for all of your work on this.
You're welcome.
Greatly appreciated.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Resolution 47 carries 7-0. Resolution 48 is withdrawn. Resolution 49 already passed. Okay. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion, Councilmember Gully. We have a second by Councilmember December. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are just going to take a 2-minute bathroom break. We'll be back in 2 minutes and get the regular meeting rolling. Thank you.
Can't put any more chairs in here, is that right?
I'll see.